Can everybody, just wondering, can everybody hear me okay? I've got this new computer and I just want to make sure. Okay, all right. Because on my end, it's looking a little. All right, so welcome to our final Lunch with LEC session. As I said, I'm Amy Good, the program manager here at the Community Education Center and alumni for our Leadership Elk-Cameron program. I'm excited for today's session, which is something to talk about this summer, updates on new exciting projects and events. And we have a guest from each community who's going to provide us an update on something exciting happening in their town. So we're going to start off with Tina Solak from the Cameron County Chamber. She's going to tell us what's going on over there in Cameron County. Welcome, Tina.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, everybody. It's awesome that we're meeting here in June to talk post-COVID about things that are happening in our region. And last year was quite a struggle for everybody, whether they were nonprofits or they were businesses. Cameron County managed to pull off, I would say, at least 90% of their events. So the events are a little different this year because the people that put those on learned a lot during COVID, and they're actually going to continue with some of those same processes that were used last year. So just a real quick rundown of some of the major events this summer in Cameron County, starting right this weekend with the big Cinnamahoning Snake Hunt, which is in Cinnamahoning Sportsman's Club. It is huge. If you're a little leery of the snakes, it's a great educational program too. So that is going on this weekend. And then we're going to roll right into some fundraising events that are taking place at the Emporium Volunteer Fire Department. And they're for the Nom Knights, they're for the Emporium Moose, they're for the fire department itself. That fire department is getting booked. And then I just heard last night that the firemen are going to be doing major renovations there to make it more desirable for people to use it. Right now it's divided with a partial wall. That wall is going to come out. It's getting new paint, the auxiliaries, completely updating the kitchen. So a whole lot of new things taking place. Also with the downtown, COVID made a lot of businesses re-examine what they were doing, how they were doing it. For instance, the owners of Aroma have stepped back their hours. They are no longer open for dinner except for Friday nights, which they saw was their biggest night. So they're continuing with that. They will not be open through the summer at night, giving themselves some more family time. The Bears Den still is closed, not because of COVID, but because they decided to do a total renovation during COVID. So we're still waiting to hear when they will be reopening. We've also had a number of buildings change hands. Fox's, the owner of Fox's franchise has now purchased the Fox's building in downtown Emporium, and they're planning on doing some facade improvements and also upgrades to both Fox's and Flowers and Things. The former dollar store, which was in Emporium, has recently been purchased. So we are getting ready to welcome an Ace Hardware. Also, CDH Designs. That's a young entrepreneur who rented a building. She's getting ready to purchase her first building. So we're really excited to see a lot of changes coming to Emporium in Cameron County. Visual changes, we are going to be seeing a completely revamping of the downtown. All the handicap accessible curbs are going to be updated. The catch basins are going to be updated. There will be new benches installed. All the Christmas decorations are going to be LED outfitted. They are also looking at putting wrought iron welcome signs coming opposite of the big military banners that are there. flower hangers that will be off the poles downtown. So all of those improvements to the downtown will be a big visual in addition to what's happening with the businesses. Right now, we are very lucky. We have one building that's empty that's for sale. And we have another building that it's empty, but there are plans for it. So when you look at downtown Emporium, we only have one vacant space, which is incredible coming out of COVID, that we managed to keep the doors open of those businesses. So definitely, you know, a lot of planning is continuing with all of the events. Weekend in the Wilds is just taking off like crazy. That's the July 2nd and 3rd. We've been very fortunate with the sale of a big property like the former dollar store and also even our grocery store, that we have attracted owners who are from small towns and really are buying into the community. The both of those locations are going to host a car cruise, which is something that Cameron County has not had in probably a decade. So that is going to take place Friday, July 3rd, or rather July 2nd. July 3rd, we're up to almost 40 vendors right now that will be lining the streets. Everything from our nonprofits that are trying to raise funds to businesses having sidewalk sales to the artist tent is just, I think we're going to have to order a second artist tent. So it's all good issues. Fireworks. The school has completely opened up. So last year where people weren't allowed to sit in the bleachers, they are this year. The only holdback there is still the Department of Ed restricting concession stand sales. So instead we are reaching out to food trucks to provide food for that event. So, you know, and then, you know, we're already planning the fall, the Triple Crown. We were able to have the canoe race in April. So now we're planning that barbecue and bike race and also the trail run in October. So like I said, the planners in Cameron County just continue to have those events. They followed the guidelines. And so, you know, we were business in a lot of ways as usual last year, but I'm really excited to totally open up this year and see people's faces and not see people wearing masks and yeah, just really getting back to normal in Cameron County. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about events or things maybe that you've heard through the community, through the rumor mill. We'll try to answer those, but just excited to really move forward with a lot of changes coming to Emporium and Cameron County over this next year.
Well, Tina, that's just great. It sounds like you guys have been rolling the ball along the way. I know I was impressed last year at how many events you guys kept having, while everybody else was kind of backing off. So kudos to you guys for doing that. Excited about all your businesses in the downtown, people, you know, being able to purchase their own buildings. Just wondering, like industry, did you guys get hit at all, you know, negatively with your industry?
Well, we recently had the sale of GKN to American Axle Manufacturing, which there is a plant in Ridgeway and there is a plant in St. Mary's. That company is headquartered out of Detroit. So that sale has happened. So far, they've kept all employees on. The only change that the employees are seeing is that they will only pay up to 4 weeks of vacation. So anybody who had 5, they're getting paid out. They also have done away with shift differential pay. But other than that, they've kept everybody on and they've kept them at their same pay grade. So that's good. You know, yes, there were businesses, no doubt, that are still recovering, primarily the restaurant industry. Manufacturing wise, once they were allowed to reopen, it was like the floodgates opening up. And so far they are continuing. I mean, just like everybody else, every business I go to, they are just dying for employees. They are screaming for workers. They are offering more money. They are offering to be more flexible in their hours, and they just don't seem to be able to attract the employees. We are closely monitoring a program that PA Wilds is trying to put forth. If they are successful in getting their Ben Franklin grant, we've already reached out to some funders to also be part of that, where they want to attract remote workers and other workers to the community by offering them money. So, I mean, if anybody on this panel has an idea of how to attract workers, please share, because I just got done meeting with the local grocery store owner, and he said the business has really picked up. And he's walking that tightrope like a lot of our businesses are. How much do you grow with your current staff? And his comment to me, which was amazing, was, I don't want to put too much more on my current staff. I really care about them, but I don't know how I can grow when I can't attract employees. So yeah, I think that's the number one takeaway that we're going to continue to battle through the summer.
Yeah, and that's everywhere, that we're seeing that happen, unfortunately. So, but you guys seem to be flourishing over there and in a lot of other areas. A lot of unique events you have there coming up. Your snake.
Yeah, the snake hunt. Yeah, we have the snake hunt. We have the Bigfoot hunt in July, part of Weekend in the Wilds. Nom Knights are doing a cornhole tournament, and they have over 19 teams signed up already. We've got Super Saturday, which is part of the Cameron County project, which is happening August the 28th. And that's bringing like nonprofit organizations, everybody together to offer primarily a free family event. So there'll be bounce houses, there'll be food, there'll be just a huge celebration of Cameron County that'll come up at the end of the summer. So yeah, it's really, they had a Cube tournament this past weekend, which raised money for the fireworks. Personally, I'm just so excited to see other entities coming up with these events so I can go to them and enjoy them. I'm not like the planner. So I'm really enjoying seeing the businesses and other groups stepping up and utilizing the resources that are here and having those events.
Does anybody have any questions? All right. Well, thank you, Tina, for the update. Great information.
Thank you. And I'm anxious to hear what everybody else is doing.
We're going to move on to Tina Gardizzi from the City of St. Mary's. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Amy. And Tina, keep up the good work. Sounds wonderful what's happening in Emporium. You guys always do a great job. So kudos to you guys. Started at the beginning there, Amy. Yeah, thank you. So thank you very much for letting me be part of your LEC virtual session this morning. I appreciate the invite. And I love the session name, which is something to shout about this summer. So we have a few projects going on. These are project specific, not really events. Tina's got a lot more going on as far as her events. I'm going to talk a little bit more about development and what is happening from the project and development standpoint here in St. Mary's. And before I begin, just so you know that everything that goes through my office as the community director of community development, everything that goes through my office is usually grant related. So I see we have a few funding funding sources on with us today. I see Jen and Barb, and obviously Victoria from it's Representative Armanini's office. So thanks for being a part of this. And without you guys, none of these projects would happen. But before I begin, one of the wonderful things, Amy, you can flip the slide. One of the big announcements is the fact that we've hired a new city manager. In May, Joe Fleming was appointed as our new city manager, and he and his wife Amanda live here in St. Mary's, obviously, with their 3 daughters, Haley, Kara, and Regan. So you can go ahead and flip the slide in. There's Joe and his family. We welcome them with open arms. Joe's been on the job now for about 5 weeks, and I feel he's doing really well. So before we go any further, I have Joe with me just to say hello, and so you can all meet him. You got in there, Joe?
Yep.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. And of course, Tina's going to say that because I'm sitting right next to her.
Absolutely.
So, no, but we have a lot of exciting things, and thank you for taking a moment that I can step in and kind of say hi to everyone, introduce myself. I love to see how we're all networking together. I love how the activities, the events, and what's going on, because I believe the community wants to come together again. And by doing that, by lowering the restrictions, and actually pretty much I think we're almost restriction free on all fronts. So that's exciting. And I think there's opportunities out there, and I think we should definitely take advantage of them, because we love where we live and we love what we do. And I didn't want to take too much of Tina's time, but I wanted to make sure I say thank you to give me some time. And also, when you guys, when everybody does come together, I like to definitely meet everyone in person. You can only do so much through a computer, but I would love to meet everyone in person. So have a great day, everyone, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Thank you, Joe. He's now leaving my office, so go ahead and talk about him if you want to. Thanks, Joe. Thanks. Go ahead and you can flick to the next slide. So what's happening in St. Mary's? A lot of people, as I mentioned, almost all the projects that surface through my office are all grant related. And you may have noticed Depot Street has seen some demolition going on. We have eliminated the blighted structures on Depot Street. Sorry. We have eliminated those structures, and now it's a grassy area. So next slide. And if you haven't been down in that area or haven't been behind our parking garage, there's some development going on there. The infrastructure that you see under this rendition, the sidewalks and everything are in. We have an area to the right there for a pavilion that will be constructed later on. The bridge that was installed 2 years ago, and that was to open up the foot traffic between Depot and Russell Street, and to so people can access businesses on both sides. You'll notice that the sidewalk there between the wording of bridge and fountain is kind of short right there. That's because these sides were done prior to us owning the property that we demolished on Depot Street. The fountain area there is designated. We're going to have this summer a pondless fountain installed, and a local family has stepped up, a family of Abby Dobson, who lost her life in an auto accident a few years back. So that's very near and dear and special. That's going to be going on in the park. So the buildings are down. Next slide, Amy. So this is what it actually looks like. The area to the left is where the fountainless pond is going to go, or pondless, however they say it, along with the bridge that had been installed. Now the funding, some of the funding sources were like Greenways Trails and Rec for this park. Obviously North Central helped us out with the Greenways lot grant. I even see Marcy was on. They've helped, the federal government also helps out with grant funding. along with the state. And like I said, our local foundations, we won't be able to do any of this without them. So next slide. So here's what we're going to kind of complete. We're going to complete the extension of the pathway this year. Next slide. And then we're going to install a small area for handicap parking. And then we're going to install a fitness court. This project started probably about 3 years ago. We started talking with the National Fitness Campaign, and this will offer free fitness and exercise to anyone who chooses to use it, whether you're from St. Mary's or not. And we have a lot of our physical therapists and whatnot, and our fitness gurus here in St. Mary's that are all on board with this project. Penn Highlands is a big supporter in this one. So next slide, Amy. The fitness court will have 7 areas of exercise, 7 movements in 7 minutes. So it's kind of cool. We'll start with the concrete pad. At the same time, we do the sidewalks and the handicap parking. And we'll have that. And then about a month later, we'll start with the padding and then the install of the actual equipment. So look for that to be probably a ribbon cutting, maybe late August, early September. Next slide. So if you haven't had an opportunity, this is just a shot that I took last summer if you haven't had an opportunity to go behind the parking garage. This is considered an event park. There are areas we could fit probably about 80 vendors around the infrastructure that we have there, along with underneath the parking garage. So it's really exciting to see, but it looks really nice back there. Now we have all the flags up from all the states, along with the city's flag. So yeah, if you get an opportunity, come up and take a look. Next slide, please. Working together with the county, this is a CDBG project, Community Development Block Grant Project. Our local Christian food bank this year or last year, due to COVID, they had to change the way that they distributed their food. So we're going to do an addition on the back of their building where people will just be able to just drive through. They can hand the boxes out, and the volunteers can just put them in the trunks of the client's cars. So that is something that will be starting once the material gets here in late September. That will be done by probably the end of November. And again, these volunteers do such a wonderful job. But what's great about this project, and if you could just hit the button one more time, is that we're partnering up with our county. We've never done a CDBG project that I can think of with Elk County. And since 77% of the clients that the Christian Food Bank serves are from the St. Mary's area, and 23% are the rest of the county, so we're teaming up together to get this project done and also help them out with supplies and PPE. So next slide, please. Another project that's been happening recently in St. Mary's is Benzinger Park. That sky does not look good in this photo, but this was taken a while back. So we were trying to get ADA access from a reserved parking area for handicap accessibility to our nature trail, and so people could be able to sit on a pathway and actually watch events like the softball games and the soccer games that go on there. So this started probably a month ago. Next slide, Amy. We are installing a concrete path about 350 feet from the parking area. The photo to the left is the area that is going to be reserved for the ADA parking and a joint pathway. And then over across from the parking lot on the Vine Road area over to the nature trail. I think they have about 100 feet to go. This project should be completed here shortly, probably by the end of the week. So we're really excited about that. Again, this is another CDBG project. So next slide. We also have a facade program that we have been working here in the city. Many of the signs that you have seen going up, like Wildwoods, Maker's Warehouse, along with Elkland Search and Rescue, all of those signs were provided through our facade program. A couple of the project that we have going on now is the Proctor House, which is up in the top right corner. They're working on, I'm not sure what happened to my slide, Amy. There we go. They're working on redoing the porch and kind of bringing it back. You may have noticed, anyone traveling through St. Mary's, a lot of the shrubbery around it, a lot of the trees all down. It's all open now. If you look at the two projects to the left and the right on the bottom, two of our buildings have been purchased downtown, and the one was purchased by, it's called Chihuahua Estates, but they are also the owners of Brandy Camp Creamery. So Brandy Camp Creamery will be moving into the one building. That's a before and after. The one on the right-hand side, that building was purchased, and it currently houses Village Peddler on the street level. And so that whole building has a new business coming in, and you'll see more on that a little bit later. But those are some of the projects we have going on with our facade program, which is state funding. Next slide, Amy. Everyone has probably heard about our 120 connector. I think we may have missed a slide in there, Amy. What about the airport one? We can go back to it if it doesn't come up. No. Okay, so the 120 connector is a project that the city applied for ARC funding and received it, but it's a PennDOT project. This is currently being engineered in 2021. What this will do, it will divert probably about 70% of the truck traffic that goes around the diamond. Anyone familiar with St. Mary's understands the diamond and the bottleneck and the congestion that happens through certain times of the day. So this will allow anyone coming from the 120 area to access straight across and then out to, it'd be from east to west 120. So again, that will divert some traffic, but we should probably start seeing some sort of construction in 2022. This project was obviously delayed a year due to COVID. So we're anxious to see that moving forward. This was funded by, I said ARC, I correct myself, it's multimodal transportation funding is what has funded this project. The project prior, the screen prior that didn't come up was our airport access road. That is ARC funding. We are improving the road, only about 1,550 feet of roadway going into our industrial park. We're seeing a little bit more. We have a couple companies that are negotiating prices for the purchase of lots out there. Some of these companies will be offering additional employment, so creating a few new jobs while retaining the other ones. And that project there was funded through ARC with the help of Amy and our central staff and the SEDS committee. And so that's a huge improvement. We're widening it, widening the intersection, widening the road, fixing the crown, addressing drainage out there as well. So next slide, Amy, let's see what comes up here. Oh, Dickinson Center project. These buildings are in our downtown. These buildings have been vacant for quite a while. There was a small business in the one, and that has now been relocated, but the buildings all the way down to the little green one there, you can see our bell and hose towers sticking up behind it. So all the buildings to the right of that little green building will be demolished, and then buildings along Market Street, which is behind those buildings. That demolition is set to take place sometime this fall. And Dickinson will be building a new center. And the rendering to the right is kind of what it's going to look like. Our downtown is a historic district. And so we worked with we were so fortunate to be able to work with the architect on this and give our opinions. And you know, we want to continue to see some of the facade that is currently on those buildings on the new build. So we're anxious to see the final. But this is what the Dickinson project will look like. Next slide. And again, as I mentioned, none of these projects would have been able to take place without the assistance of many of these funding sources. And I'm sure there's some that we have missed, but a lot of our parks and recreation projects this year, Women Who Cares, a small organization based through the Elk County Community Foundation, they funded along with the Elk County Community Foundation and Stockville Hall, a lot of our recreation programs, a lot of our our classroom projects that were the programs that we'll be running throughout the parks this year. So just so grateful and thankful for all of these guys. And other than that, I thank you for this opportunity. And if anyone has any questions, I'm here. Ask away. There it is. There's my airport.
I have a question.
Sure. Who's I? Who's talking?
It's me, Tina.
Oh, hey, Megan.
I thought that what you were doing with facades was interesting next to this Dickinson building that's going to go in. So are you saying that there is an attempt to make the front of the new Dickinson building reminiscent of those old facades?
Yeah. So some of the features, if you look really, really close, we call it the German house, some of the features, and then the way the windows are constructed.
Yeah.
We've been working with them on several renditions. This is the latest. I'm really not sure where they're at right now, but some of the features on the tallest building to the right, that's called the German house. We asked them to include some of those, some of the structural features. If you look on the rendering, you can see them on the second and third floor. On a couple of them. So yeah, just little things like that. Bringing back the side entrance there. You can see that down in the far left of their rendering. So yeah, we just didn't want, I mean, and these guys do a great job. If anyone has been through Brockway lately, the Verichetti building that they have in Brockway, right past the intersection on the left, as you're going into Brockway. This is the same architect that designed that building. And although that's a more modern building, we didn't want to see, we want modernization, but we also need to be cognizant of the fact that this is a historic downtown and we need to make this building fit. So it's been great to work with these people. They've been very, very kind in allowing us to attend a lot of their meetings.
Tina, with the PA 120 connector, the East Mill Street area down by the post office, do they anticipate that they'll have to remove parking spots and such to widen the road?
Yeah, there may be some parking that may have to be eliminated. Again, this is just the rendering. It looks worse than what I think it's going to be. But we've talked about the possibility of putting parking on Mill Street there. Just trying to create additional parking throughout that area so that the businesses going down, that's called Chestnut Street, well, they have parking in front. There are several businesses there, so we need to accommodate. So PennDOT's working that rendering. So nothing has been finalized yet, but yeah, that some of the parking may have to be eliminated. Any other questions?
Tina, this is Marcy.
Hey, Marcy.
So I'm happy to know that we're involved in some of this stuff. This is great. A facade is the fake front. So is there a word like a facade for the fake back?
Yeah.
Because I would love to see the tablespoon, like the back of tablespoons, be upgraded.
Yeah, so, oh boy, Marcy, you hit the nail on the head right there. My biggest, I can look out my window right now and I've got like a clear view of the Stillman building. Obviously the Community Education Council, that was one of our facade projects.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then I do have tablespoons on my agenda, but the Stillman building is one I really want to hit front and back. So facade includes anything that you can see from street level. Okay. So since Depot Street is so highly traveled and Depot Street may end up becoming two ways, because if you noticed, it's only one way from the park from Sheets up to the stop sign, but the rest of it is two way. So you may be able to access Depot Street coming from Brussels Street.
I've actually done that, when I first got here, and then I realized, I think I'm going the wrong way.
And you didn't get arrested. Good for you. But facade, yeah, definitely. We're addressing it's any facade includes any area you can see from, but it has to be a major, kind of like a major roadway. So obviously Depot Street is highly traveled. We got a lot going on Depot Street. So that's the backs of those buildings. And yes, definitely we're working on that.
Good, good.
Yeah, exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, thank you, Tina. I
welcome.
appreciate the update. You have a lot going on here in St. Mary's.
Yeah,
A lot of changes.
I need about 4 more employees, so. But we'll get it done. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm going to now move on to Mike Hanley. He is the new Ridgeway Borough Manager, and he's going to give us some updates on Ridgeway. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Amy. Hello, everyone. Over the past couple of years, the Borough of Ridgeway, we've been focusing on blighted properties, blight mitigation efforts and such. And last year, the Borough of Ridgeway, we were fortunate enough to acquire 28 acres of riverfront property here in the borough. It once housed a thriving lumber mill for the whole community. And over the years, it's become blighted, and after it's dissolved for the past 10 years. So we've been working really hard in rehabilitating this property and trying to determine what its future use is going to be. The ultimate goal of this blight mitigation effort was to kind of stimulate the economy, to encourage investment, and kind of like redevelop the riverfront property in the borough. I'm going to begin sharing my screen. Do I just click share screen and you have it disabled? You're muted.
I went the easy route, Mike. I made Amy do it.
No problem. Once you just allowed me access. Thank you. Okay. Okay, well, this is basically, can everyone see my screen?
We can see it. It's very small. Are you going to be clicking on those to make them bigger, or?
Oh, hold on a sec. How's that? Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
We see a
Is it-
thumbnail. We see thumbnails of the whole screen.
Oh, okay. One sec.
We don't see the full picture.
Gotcha. Let me try one more time. Apologies. Let's see here. How's that?
Much better.
Okay. Apparently I have to do each picture individually, but basically this is just an overshot of part of the 28 acres of riverfront property. You can see the highlighted, the circles there, one of the major parts of the blighted, dilapidated structures. The property became, an attractive nuisance to children and vagrants. Had an excessive accumulation of riffraff, rubbish, and trash. There were more dangerous structures and unsafe equipment on the property. Overall, very unsafe. Can you see this picture? Is it large?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so this is just an example of, this is just a small portion of what we were up against. And this was pretty common. You saw a few pictures there, and in some of those rooms and those structures, there were vagrants and such, and people were actually, using this as a place to stay, keeping warm. So eventually, let me try to get this, trying to work my screen here. I should have sent this over to you, Amy. Can you see this screen?
Just you.
Okay, how about there?
No.
Raro. Well, long story short, I guess I can't share the screen properly here. Let me see. Can you see the borough webpage?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I had some pictures there to show you just how blighted this property was. And like I said, it was 28 acres of riverfront property. And long story short, we're trying to find a better use for it. And currently, through rehab and blight control efforts, we've cleaned up the property of all the dangerous structures, as well as the debris that were scattered about. We're trying to refocus on the riverfront, to encourage people to come to the community, use a primitive campsite that we just recently installed. Can we see the Ridgeway Mills campsite webpage here? Amy, can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, good. So here, this is basically just an overview of what we have right now. And right now we do have some primitive campsites that are available for rent, right down on the Clarion River. This Clarion River, was recently named Pennsylvania River of the Year. As a matter of fact, Clarion has held that title 4 different times. I believe it's our region's, one of the region's greatest assets. So if you're interested in learning more about this, just go onto our borough webpage and you can rent some sites. And that was just one minor project that we're working on. We have a number of projects that we've been working on that we, are going to share in the near future.
That's great. I've been watching your progress as I'm walking the trails because you can see it from there. And every time there's something new, whether it be a picnic table or a little fire pit. So I think it looks pretty great down there. Does anybody have any questions for Mike? Mike, I just have one question. Are you, because we were just talking about this, I think last week at a meeting I was at, as like, is anybody using it? And like, are you starting to advertise that out, out of the area or?
Well, that's a good question. So like I said, we're slowly turning this into a campsite. So haven't really properly advertised it yet because we just weren't quite ready. And one of the major reasons was the grass. We wanted the grass to grow and kind of like make it more appealing. But we do have plans on putting 25 campsites in the very near future. Currently, we have 12 sites available. We will have picnic tables. Actually, right now they're available. We have picnic tables at each site, a fire ring with a grill at each site. And the lot sizes, we can accommodate RVs up to 40 feet in length, pop-up campers, pull behinds, tents. And we also have like an area where you can do tent only. And $15 a night for tents only, and then $25 a night for RVs and up. So.
That's great. I'm excited as a Ridgeway resident to see the progress on that project.
Sure. Thanks.
Mike, this is Tina. I just have a question. So is this owned by the borough then? And then
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Currently, we're the owners of the property. So I didn't bore you with the acquisition of this property. So there was some blight. Like I said, we had some blight mitigation efforts over the past couple of years, and this was a major blighted issue in our borough. The kind owners before this, he agreed to demo all the structures at his cost. And then in turn, he donated the property to the borough. So now we're trying to figure out a way to redevelop it to make our community more of a destination than a gateway.
Nice. Good job. Nice project.
More to come.
Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, everyone.
Mike, appreciate the update. So now I'm going to move on to Megan Schreiber-Carter. She's the president of the Johnsburg Community Trust, and she's going to update us on their brick block project. So welcome, Megan.
Hi. Thank you. Good afternoon. It's good to be here today. and I have a few things to say, so I'll just get right into it. Amy, would you please put up some of the images, all but one, of the
Yeah.
historic
Mike,
building?
can you give me back?
What's that?
Mike has to give me back hosting so I can share.
Okay.
Let me get that back.
That was only the second time I've done that. So let me see. How's that, Amy?
Not yet. Do you have like participants? Bottom?
How's that? Only host? Did that work?
Like a more button, I think.
Yeah, I have no control of that portion.
Of the more button.
What am I looking for?
If you go to participants and you go to find your name and it should say like more.
Okay.
See that?
Okay. It says redeem.
It says stop. Let's see if I have it. Attack. Mike, can
Yeah.
you maybe exit? I think if you hit leave, it'll ask you if you want to give host and then back in. That's the only other way I can think of to do it. Okay, I'm back to hosting. Okay, here we go.
Okay, there they are. So I'd like to talk to you about these. These are just a few of the buildings. So the Borough of Johnsonburg, for those of you who don't know, because I know the audience is wide. The Borough of Johnsonburg is the site of the first settlement in Elk County. It sits at the crux of the start of the Clarion River. Around the turn of the 1900s, this borough was a boom town. Current residents and tourists who walk through the remarkable stock of historic structures here revisit a grand era of crafted architecture. Currently, 15 buildings are highlighted on a tour of the Commercial Historic District, but there are more than 15 historic buildings here, and a number of them have been in need of good stewards. The Johnsburg Community Trust is a nonprofit that's been around for a couple of decades. The Trust's mission boils down to revitalization of this historic borough. Our most ambitious project to date is the restoration of the historic brick block, which is not shown here. These are other buildings, some of which you may be familiar, others you won't know. The upper left-hand corner is the bank building. I'll refer to that again. The upper right is the G.C. Murphy building, also called the Zierden building. It's a neighbor to the brick block. We're going to talk about that one next. Bottom left, that's called something or other pharmaceutical building. KJ's is in there, some know that. And then the last picture on the lower right is the community center. So Amy, would you please put up the picture of the brick block? So our most ambitious project to date is the restoration of the historic brick block. And this is the Italianate style brick block. It's a cornerstone structure of the historic district. It was designed and financed by Philadelphia business people. The brick block is 130 years old. It's the size of 12 buildings. It's said to be the first outdoor mall in the US, which actually is kind of a big deal. It's Preservation PA at-risk rare historic structure, and the Park Service says it's of extraordinary significance to the district and the region. The structure is built from local brick, trimmed with local rock face sandstone, features a lively roofline. The first floor is made up of 12 retail units with rear courtyards. The second and third floors feature 14 spacious Manhattan-style apartments, sought after historically as elite living quarters. The second floor, you can see cantilevers out over the sidewalk forming an outdoor arcade. About a year ago, following half a century of neglect, the brick block landed in a public auction. By this time, the 12 storefronts were empty and the remaining lower income residential tenants had finally vacated. And sadly, the last of the residential tenants didn't depart until after the utilities had been turned off for months. So it was a bad situation all the way around. So the trust bought the 45,000 square foot brick block for $612. It all happened pretty fast. But we began by exterminating, draining pipes, covering openings against wildlife and the elements, and otherwise securing the structure. We've been sprucing up the exterior and have removed mountains of abandoned belongings and decades of debris. And to date, volunteers have removed more than 45 tons of leftover contents. We're removing more debris even as I speak because we've just begun selective demolition of some, well, they're shoddy, damaging courtyards that are additions in the alley, and I call them shanties. So those are in the process of coming off. And the trust is grateful for a recent grant from the Elk County Community Foundation, which enabled us to rewire the first 3 retail units. Those would be on the right-hand side as you look at this picture on the street level. During our New Year's Eve luminary event, which went all over town, including in front of that building, for the first time in a long time, a soft glow shone from the arcade, which I remember thinking brought welcome light to a formerly dark place. So that was really nice. And the next phase of our brick block rehabilitation plan includes more of everything we've been doing, plus more focused fundraising and more planning for this building's good stewardship. The final 3 phases of our 5 to 7 year rehabilitation plan involve rehabilitating the 12 street level retail units for businesses and the 14 upper level residential units for Airbnb type lodging, seasonal lodging, whatever you want to call that. Interested potential retail and residential tenants are lining up, but we are not ready for them. We've had some growing pains. We need more people, more money. We haven't found a magic bullet for funding yet. So far it appears that it takes about a year to get into the granting cycle, and then takes about another year to get anything out of it. So, but I believe we will, and possibly soon. So we'll see. But a lot of people seem to like what we're doing. The trust's revitalization efforts benefit not only the borough and Elk County, but also the PA Wilds and the Lumber Heritage regions. And our revitalization efforts also further state and federal goals to preserve at-risk historic structures. As a cornerstone structure, the brick block is a symbol of hope for thousands of fiercely loyal current and former residents who want revitalization, and they support our progress with dollars, with services, with physical labor, which is great. And currently, I'll say that the brick block's closest neighbors are doing rather well. Some of the ones you saw when I first started speaking, for example, the borough is sewing up an impressive restoration of the Hyde Murphy Community Center. The Water Authority sees to it that the old bank building stays in great shape. The G.C. Murphy building has an able new owner who plans to open what looks to be a very successful coffee shop. And at least one other historic building in need of a good steward is soon likely to be purchased by one. So that's good. And I'd like you to know that starting on Wednesday, June 23rd, a weekly farmers and artisans market begins on Market Street from 3 to 6 p.m. The market's primary backdrop is the brick block stone arcade. To raise awareness and funds, the trust plans to give tours of the brick block's first bay, which if you see that white car down on the far right, that's sort of between the first and second bay. So that's we would go up and down in the first bay, and that's only 1/12 of the building. I'd also like you to know that not long ago, a well-known elder of this borough gave me some good advice. He said, if you have 2 feet in this borough, it's hard to get anything done. And if you have 2 feet out of this borough, it's impossible to get anything done. But if you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, you can get some things done. And so that sage advice actually has turned out to be key. Frankly, and unfortunately, we don't have the expertise in this borough alone to do all that needs to be done here. So to help us fulfill the revitalization mission of this organization, the trust aims to keep a balanced mix of feet in and feet out of the borough. Some directors and participants are fully rooted in the borough, but others are partially rooted. For example, our brick block project manager is a borough native who's a principal in a DC area real estate development firm. One of our directors, who's also a borough
Megan,
native.
I can't hear you.
Oh, really? I can't imagine. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure what happened. I was so interested in what I was saying. I wasn't paying any attention.
Can everyone else hear her?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Maybe it was the thunder and lightning. It just happened. I don't know.
oh, it probably was. It went flying through here right on its way to you, I think, a little bit ago. So I don't know. I was telling you about the different people who are on the board. And I don't know what the last thing is you heard before you couldn't hear me. Did you hear me say about the director who is our project manager is a borough native? Did you hear me say that? Yeah. And he's a principal in a DC real estate firm. And one of our directors is also a borough native, works with us from Arizona for most of the year. Another director is a native of New Mexico, but has lived in Elk County for decades and is the owner of a new financial services business here in town. Another director is a regional business person who was born and raised in a neighboring town. So we have a healthy mix of viewpoints, but regardless of our backgrounds or where we live, we all who are involved with the trust share a well-intentioned interest in furthering the revitalization mission of the organization. So, and in fact, and this is important, I think maybe to this audience, that we're looking around now for additional directors and participants for the coming year. So thousands may be behind us, but we're still in need of more good people to help us actually administrate the revitalization. Following this lunch hour, when you're asked what you'll do differently in your personal or professional life as a result of this session, I hope that you will say that you'll shop the Wednesday market at the Brick Block and that you will volunteer with the Community Trust. And I encourage you to follow our progress on Facebook and on our website. And I thank you for your attention and for your interest in the Brick Block project. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Those are just, the first one will take you to a historic guided tour. Just go to the johnsburgcommunitytrust.org or .com, you'll find it. And the next one is an article that shows pictures of a lot of the buildings, tells a lot of the history of the borough. So that's plenty of that. Thank you, Amy. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm all ears.
What time is the market on Wednesday?
Starts, it's from 3 to 6, and there'll be live music, and we checked out the acoustics under the arcade, which are really good. And it's 3 to 6, and it starts on the 23rd, Wednesday, the 23rd.
Okay, thanks.
Not mistaken, not at all, Marcy, I hope you come. Oh, and there are going to be some food vendors there, some artisans. It should be really great. And if it is well attended at first, interestingly enough, this is, probably the first outdoor market in the US, and we're having this market there. It's made for it. It's made for it. But if it does well, the boroughs agrees to close the street the next time. The first time they just gave us the parking spots on either side.
Nice. Megan, I do have a question. So the whole block itself is one parcel, correct?
I meant to emphasize that when I read over what I was going to say. So yeah, the brick block is a block long building. It covers the whole block. It's massive. So that project is a whole 45,000 square foot
Wow.
block building. And apparently this particular style of architecture, one of its tenets is that it fills every single square inch of space that it can with structure.
Right.
Which is true of this building and its courtyards and all the other things that go on with it. But it's got a great roof. It's really interesting building. The tours, a lot of people want to get inside and look at it. So I think the tours are going to be popular.
Yeah. So I guess the reason I asked that question is because, it's a huge tax revenue, but being owned by a nonprofit, would they think about possibly selling sections off of it? Like if somebody wanted that townhouse, Airbnb, whatever, a small business or whatnot, will it always remain under a nonprofit business, or will they switch it over to generate some tax revenue for the borough?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes. It's always been in the rehabilitation plan that if we got an offer that was too good to refuse, we would go for it. So if someone comes in here and says, hey, we want the whole thing, we're going to say, okay, will you please not, do any damage to it, and, that sort of thing. And if it looks like dividing it into 12 is the way that we should go, it's all on the table.
That's interesting, Mike. That's why I asked you the question, if the borough owned your property, and because again, I always get hammered upon, with my projects being, if they're working with nonprofits or whatnot, or the city owning buildings, we don't want that. Or, tax revenue. Are you what are your plans too?
Well, the plans are still in discussions. No determination has been made by council yet.
Okay. All
But
right.
that is a major factor. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, I want to thank all of our speakers today for joining us. It was great to hear from all the communities and see what's going on. So I have one more thing to do before we jump off, though. We want to recognize the following people who attended 5 or more sessions this past year and completed a post-evaluation. So that would be Barb Glatt, Ron Hammersley, Allison McCurdy Fox, and Judy Shout. So all of you will receive the 25% discount off of our full program next year if you choose to participate. However, we do have one grand prize winner who is going to get the class for free next year. So I'm going to draw a name right now, and that is going to be Allison McCurdy Fox. So Allison, if you're interested in participating in the program, you can sign up. And just a reminder that our application is available on the website for anyone, and there is an early bird deadline that ends this Friday, June 11th for those. So once again, thank you, speakers and participants. It's been a pleasure providing you a taste of our LEC program this past year, and we thank you for joining us. We will be sending you a follow-up link with a recording and an evaluation for this session. Everyone has a great day.
Thank you. See you, everyone.